just a feeling.
For Total Home Pest Control, who are you going to call?
Call the Bug Man, 923-BUGS.
For total pest control for your home or business, call the original Salvant.
Call the Bug Man today, 923-BUGS.
Exiles from what you ask? Exiled from the radio. But now, we're on your television.
I'm Bill Perfita, he's Kevin Gallagher, and they kicked us to the curb.
But we're back.
We are back with Exiles Television on the Pelican Broadcasting Network. We're going to bring you the newsmakers. We're also going to take your calls and give you great information. It's going to be the best damn radio show on television.
Look for it on your cable system or download the app, PelicanSportsTV.com.
Says here that Eric Gaylord is back. Now, where's he been?
Well, I was told he had joined the CIA, trying to stop the Russians from stealing our election.
Vodka. Nazdorovia.
Nazdorovia.
Free elections.
Hello guys, it's Debbie. It's time. I've got a brand new location. 10510 Airline Highway, Baton Rouge, next to After 5 Tuxedos. We have the perfect spot to get all your wedding and formal wear needs. Come see our one-of-a-kind name brand and get great prices. With 30 years experience, the best customer service anywhere. It's Debbie's Bridal, Airline Highway, Baton Rouge. See you soon.
Hello and welcome to hour one of the Monday edition of the Clarence Bug Show. Here's hoping that your weekend was an absolutely fabulous one. You know, the kind we like. Nice, quiet, uneventful weekend. If not, well, as we like to say each and every Monday, right about this time of the day, good Lord willing, you will still be here when the next one rolls our way, and you'll have the opportunity to try it all over again. We start today's show talking about the fact that we continue to ever so slowly work our way through the COVID-19 pandemic. Unfortunately, while the world has stopped for many people as far as work and getting out and doing the things that we do on a daily basis, it has not stopped as far as something that every single year, as regular as clockwork, rolls around for folks all along the Gulf Coast. By now, you have probably ascertained that we're talking about hurricane season. That's right. It is just around the corner. And the folks at GOHSEP, the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, are getting us ready for just that. Deputy Director Casey Tingle joins us to start today's show. Deputy Director Tingle, how are you today, sir?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're quite welcome. So how has COVID-19 altered, if at any, GOHSEP's plans for hurricane season?
That's a great question, and certainly it has been something that we have reviewed all of our plans and processes to figure out the best ways to adjust as needed. And from our perspective, there are a couple of categories that really come into play as we work with our parish and local partners, as we work with our federal partners, as we get ready for hurricane season. One is the issue of timing. Would any of their time frames change because of COVID? Would they call for an evacuation sooner than they might otherwise do that? Would other timelines that they have in their planning processes change? And then the second is the availability of certain resources. Things like when we talk about an evacuation and we think about buses, or those available, or the drivers available. As we think about sheltering or hotels, certainly they've got capacity, but do they have the workers in place and the support in place to support, those types of sheltering efforts? So, and then also incorporating into our updated plans the use of masks, face coverings, hand sanitizer, and those types of things for anything that we would be doing or encouraging locals to do that would involve, putting people together. Certainly social distancing is something that we're going to try to incorporate as much as possible in all of those plans. But face coverings and hand sanitizer, those types of supplies are going to be a part of what we're doing, and we'd encourage the public to incorporate that in what they're doing as they get prepare themselves for hurricane season.
We typically, us lay people, when we see shots of GOHSEP at work, it's usually a room packed with people. You're in close proximity with one another. You're sharing resources and the like. How tough is this going to make your job if we have the unfortunate event of having to entertain a hurricane?
Yeah, certainly it does change some of those areas. The good thing that can come out of something like this is that for the past couple of months, we've had an opportunity to figure some of that stuff out. So we have, leaned on Zoom conference calls and technology to help us out and to limit the amount of meetings and crowded spaces that we need to have. Certainly, there are people here from other agencies, and we are doing our normal functions as the state EOC, but we're spread out more than we otherwise would be. Piling into a conference room is not something that we do currently, and so we've had an opportunity to adjust some of those practices based upon what we've been through the last couple of months.
Are you worried any at all that folks are so concerned about the coronavirus that they become lax in their preparations for this pending hurricane season?
I think we would be concerned about anything that would, create doubt or concern in someone's mind as it relates to the serious threat of hurricanes and storm surge. That is a life and death scenario. Storm surge and is the leading cause of death for hurricanes. And so what we would encourage those people to do is to certainly listen to and follow the instructions of their local elected officials, be prepared to evacuate, incorporate face coverings, hand sanitizer, those types of things. But if your local elected officials call for an evacuation, that's because there are serious consequences if you don't evacuate. And for those that need help evacuating, that's what the state is working with our state and local partners to help facilitate.
How important is it, Casey, that parents talk with their kids about this pending hurricane season, understanding the emotional trauma that many of them may be experiencing because of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah, that's a great question. The hard part here is that risk in general is oftentimes difficult to understand and communicate in advance of something happening. After it happens, it's pretty easy to look at and see and explain it. But you only have to look back at the pictures of previous hurricane seasons last year, the year before for some of our neighboring states, even last year for Hurricane Barry in our state, to see what the impact of those events can be. So our hope would be that one of the positives that comes out of what we've been going through with COVID is that families have had time to have those discussions and to connect around these types of things. We don't want anyone to be fearful. We don't want anyone to be, acting out of fear. But it really is about preparing. What can you do? And the more that you talk through those things, if and when you need to take those actions, hopefully your families would be prepared to do so.
Obviously, as we get closer to reopening the economy, there's been a lot of talk, Casey, about the financial strain that the state's budget is under. How are you sitting as far as resources, and can you expect any help from the federal government down the road if, in fact, we find ourselves with the hurricane?
Yes, I think those are well-rehearsed and well-practiced partnerships. The discussions are going on even now. So certainly, as it relates to those matters, I don't want to minimize the state's fiscal issues, nor the financial strain that families are under. But from the state and the federal government's perspective, we're going to be prepared to respond as we normally would, and lean on those partnerships. And then, to the extent that our parishes or local governments need our assistance, our system is set up to support them. And so we're gonna work our way through those things, but we're going to be prepared to respond as usual.
Conventional wisdom says one of the things that we would really be concerned about would be shelter space if, in fact, we have not been able to completely wipe the coronavirus out of our collective systems. How are you feeling about the ability to shelter people en masse should we need to?
So, from the state's perspective, we own part of that mission. In addition to our parishes and our local officials. So we've had a lot of discussions around that. We will be recommending a reduced occupancy capacity for our shelters. But at the end of the day, it's going to be about saving lives. So that has resulted in us looking for and identifying some additional shelter locations across the state. It has, so those plans are ongoing. We will have additional shelter options, buildings that we've not previously used, and some of that's still ongoing as we speak. But we're going to do what we need to do to save lives.
When you step back and look at all of this, what is the greatest thing that we lay people can do to assist you and the folks at GOHSEP?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things there. One is, the more that each individual family knows what they're going to do if they have to evacuate, the better off all of our first responders will be in terms of not having to respond to them. Knowing where you can go. Certainly in the greater Baton Rouge area, it's not likely that a mass evacuation would be called for. But if you have friends or family in some of the coastal areas, talking to them about what their plans are and working with them as appropriately. That's the big thing. Just having an idea of where you're going to go and what you're going to do if you have to evacuate your home for some reason helps everyone out. On the financial side, we would just encourage everybody, take this time to sit down with your agent to walk through your insurance policies, know what's covered and not covered, so that financially, to the extent that you can do something like flood insurance, that you're better insured going into this hurricane season.
Finally, Casey, looking at what could potentially be, how are you as far as staffing for GOHSEP is concerned? Are you all going to be 100% post-COVID-19?
Yes, sir. As we sit here today, we are in a great position relative to staffing. We have certainly identified opportunities to have employees work from home and telework as other agencies and the private sector has. We've done what we could to limit exposure and do temperature checks and wear masks in the facility. So we're in a very good position as we stand now, and hopefully that's the position that we'll remain in should something happen.
Casey Tingle is the Deputy Director for the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. Casey, thank you for the time and for the reminder that the fifth season is just around the corner. We appreciate it sincerely.
Thank you. Thank you for the time this morning.
You're quite welcome. All right, first break of hour one. We'll get this done, and we'll soldier on through hour one of today's edition of the Clarence Bug Show right here on the Pelican. Stay close.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
The IRS
garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
I'm self-employed and didn't report all my income. They claim I owe a lot more than I do.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
Tax Solutions Now saved my business.
I qualified for the Fresh Start program. I paid less than I owed.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now.
Call 800-778-4345. 800-778-4345.
From appetizers, pasta dishes, and entrees, La Contea takes pride in preparing all the Italian cuisine we know you love. Enjoy live music every Thursday through Saturday from 6 to 9, happy hour weekdays from 3 to 6, and brunch on Sundays from 11 to 2, as well as dinner portion-sized lunch specials for under $10. Visit our website to view our menu and book a party or meeting in our large banquet room. Once you try La Contea, your Italian dining will change forever.
Hi, I'm Bobby Yarborough with Manda Fine Meats. Here at Manda, we know what the folks of South Louisiana love. They love great flavored smoked sausage, delicious deli meats, and specialty items like boudin and andouille sausage. Manda Fine Meats has been providing these products since 1947. We produce them right here in Baton Rouge, so you know you're always getting the freshest product at your local grocery store. Manda Fine Meats. Taste the fresh local flavor in everything we make. Make it Manda every time.
Bolello's Furniture and Appliances, your dependable independent. Depend on us for service, for selection, for price. Get huge Whirlpool savings. Shop now and save on Whirlpool appliances throughout the store. Plus, experience our price match guarantee and ask about special financing. You can depend on the know-how of people who live appliances every day. Bolello's Furniture and Appliances, your dependable independent with nationwide buying power.
Welcome back to hour one of today's edition of the Clarence Bug Show. It is a day today that many business owners and, of course, just regular folks as well have really been anticipating. Two things scheduled to happen today. One, Governor John Bel Edwards expected to announce if, in fact, we are ready for phase one of the reopening of our economy. Please, Lord, let it happen. Can't happen soon enough. I know there's tons of folks out there that are just raring to get back to work, start the process of generating some revenue and some income, and hopefully at 2:30 this afternoon, we'll get some good news. Some folks that will probably not get news all that great will be the Louisiana Legislature today. The REC, the acronym for Revenue Estimating Conference, is scheduled today to attempt to put the first real number to the budget problem that Louisiana is going to be facing as a result of this recent pandemic. So far, estimates range anywhere from a $500 million deficit to as high as a $1.5 billion deficit. Either of those, particularly the latter number, the $1.5 billion, would force budget cuts across state agencies to keep our budget in balance. Unfortunately, here in Louisiana, as is the case with a lot of other states, we've got a bit of a double-edged sword playing into all of this. The COVID-19 pandemic and the stay-home orders depressed our economic output while increasing the unemployment costs to the state. And of course, you add to that all that's taking place on the international front with the oil and gas scene, that huge feud there, and it only serves to deepen our crisis with the decline in oil prices. I know a lot of you have been sheltering at home as of late, but gas prices are unreal right now. They are so low. And of course, that continues to throw yet another wrench into the cog of Louisiana's economic machinery. As severe as Hurricane Katrina was, Stephen Barnes, economist from ULL in Lafayette, says he thinks that this event is going to lodge an even larger hit to our budget. It is a new estimate that's going to require a unanimous decision from all the members of the REC. In recent years and in recent memory, whatever the number was from the Revenue Estimating Conference, we typically would find a way to deal with that. This is going to be an entirely different animal, however, because when you throw into this mix the lack of revenue generation, then you've got a double whammy to deal with. It is uncertain, for lack of a better word, at this point, what sort of federal aid we can realistically expect here in Louisiana. But the problem with that federal aid, as I'm sure you are well aware of, it's all the strings that come attached to that. And unfortunately, here in Louisiana, because of our propensity for hurricanes, floods, things of that nature, we have developed a pretty bad habit of budgeting federal money and relying on that federal money to prop up our budget. At the end of the day, typically there's a cutoff point for that revenue. And when that happens, if you've not started the process of weaning yourself off Uncle Sam's money, you're going to find yourself dealing with a huge problem. There is the possibility, and I'm sure there's going to be some vigorous debate about all of this, about Congress changing the rules to allow states and municipalities to use the money they receive from the federal government to fill holes in the budget. I don't want to be a naysayer, but it's certainly conceivable that there would be municipalities, and some states for that matter, that would use that money in a fashion that it's not intended to be used for. Meaning, if you are living beyond your means, you are spending money on things that, quite frankly, should be someone else's responsibility, there is a distinct possibility that you're going to run into some major problems there. Again, you can expect what will probably be a very vigorous debate in that regard. At the end of the day, you can make the argument, Clarence, that's my money. They ought to be able to spend it the way the states want to spend it, because after all, we are the ones that supplied the money. I get it. I understand wholeheartedly. But when all is said and done, it is not just your money, it is collectively the money from all working people in the entire country. And when you get right down to it, just like you and I don't particularly cotton to the idea of having our tax dollars go to fill some pork barrel project up in, Iowa, for example. The folks in Iowa don't like their hard-earned tax dollars being used for a pork barrel project here in Louisiana. It is, sadly, something that we have neglected for far too long. You've heard ad nauseum every single time we go into a special session or there's a fiscal cliff or a budget shortfall, you hear legislators complain about what they are allowed to cut. Now, that, in a twist of irony, is something of their own doing. You and I decided a long time ago that we were tired of politicians collecting money from us for one purpose and using it for something else. So as a result, we've said over and over again, we're going to vote for this tax, we'll give you the money. But if you cannot use it for anything other than that. It sounds good at face value, and I understand you want security in knowing that your money is going to go where they're telling you it's going to go. But unfortunately, higher education, healthcare, two areas that impact this state greatly are the only two left where discretionary cuts can occur every time there's a budget crisis. Unfortunately, cutting those two areas will inevitably, it is a foregone conclusion, a proven point. Cuts in those areas will hurt your state a little further down the road. We already know that we are the least healthy state probably in the entire nation. We already know we are lagging in education. And the only way out of a poverty situation is with a healthy, viable workforce. Every single time you take that budget axe and start whacking away at higher ed and at health care, you are dooming Louisiana to continue to occupy positions on the bottom rung of the ladder. That is just the reality of what we're dealing with. And quite frankly, the COVID-19 pandemic, shutting down schools, is the last thing that we needed. Quite frankly, the COVID-19 pandemic causing anywhere from $500 million to $1.5 billion shortfall is the last thing we need. We've not been able to muster the political courage, the will, if you will, to start undedicating things in the budget. You and I, when we get laid off, when our hours are cut back, we sit down at the family dining table and call a family meeting and decide what's important, priority-wise, and what we can do without. That is something that the state of Louisiana, hopefully, is probably going to be forced to do. Listen, I understand there's not a politician alive that relishes the idea of going back to their constituency and being the one that has to explain why a project that's been funded for the last 20, 30, 40 years has to be cut. It's not an enviable position, but at the end of the day, if you and your household continue to spend the way you normally spend, even though the revenue has been cut, I think we all know what's going to happen at the end of that exercise. And sadly, when that happens, guess whose pocket we're going to have to dig in to make up the shortfall? Ding, 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 we've got a winner. Your pockets. It is something that has been a long time coming, and quite frankly, it's long overdue. Now, whether or not the legislature will be able to muster the political courage to do this, that's something that remains to be seen. I don't envy them in any way, shape, or form, but the fact of the matter is they understood that this was a part of the game when they ran for the office. So hopefully, when all is said and done, we will be able to look back at some point in Louisiana's history and say this was a turning point for the Louisiana legislature. They finally understood, because of this huge budget shortfall, that it is incumbent that we live within our means. Only time will tell. We'll keep an eye on it, and we'll share that information with you. Lots of folks may be having some second thoughts these days about running for some offices. One of them, in particular, Metro Councilman Matt Watson, will join us to start our second hour. He's running for the mayor of EBR. Wonder if he's having any second thoughts right now, Marty. We'll pick his brain and we'll find out in the second hour. But in the meantime, the Department of Transportation and Development has been a busy bunch of folks while all of us were at home. We'll spend some time with the good folks at DOTD talking about what they've been doing and what you can expect to see when you're finally able to grab those keys, jump back in the car, and head on down the roadway. That and more is still to come in the Monday edition of the Clarence Bugg Show. Right where you've got it, here on the Pelican. Stay close.
Hi, I am Dr. Farrell Rouge Jr., and I am a general dentist at Rouge Family Dentistry. I was born and raised in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I went to Catholic High School, LSU, and LSU School of Dentistry in New Orleans, where I received my DDS degree in 1986. I always have and will continue to be committed to continuing my education, to invest in technology which makes the diagnosis and delivery of dentistry more thorough, more comfortable, and more aesthetically pleasing. In our practice, we are here to serve the patients. We want to improve their quality of life and to develop relationships with our patients. In dentistry, we have a chance to impact lives on a daily basis, not just by doing dentistry, but by getting to know them and being a part of their life. We also believe in giving back to our community. So every year, we give back to the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank, Toys for Tots, and Mary Byrd Perkins Cancer Center. Please stop by and visit our office. We would love to take care of you and your family.
Hello guys, it's Debbie. It's time. I've got a brand new location. 10510 Airline Highway, Baton Rouge, next to After 5 Tuxedos. We have the perfect spot to get all your wedding and formal wear needs. Come see our one-of-a-kind name brand and get great prices. With 30 years experience, the best customer service anywhere. It's Debbie's Bridal, Airline Highway, Baton Rouge. See you soon.
For Total Home Pest Control, who are you going to call?
Call the Bug Man, 923-BUGS.
For total pest control for your home or business, call the original Salvat.
Call the Bug Man today, 923-BUGS.
They said I could find you here. Why are you fishing? Our company's got to ship out 2 full color brochures and 20 color copies. You're killing me.
It's done. Designed, printed, packaged, and shipped.
How?
You just got to know the right people. Baker Printing, the printing people.
How come you get to fish in this private lake?
Like I said, you just got to know the right people. You can know the right people too.
Welcome back to hour one of today's edition of the Clarence Bug Show. You know, it is something that a lot of us don't pay nearly as much attention to as we should. If you are a native Louisianian like yours truly, you love this state, you love the bounty that we have of natural resources in this state, but you also are pained greatly when you drive around any number of cities in our state and you look at how we treat the natural beauty that we are blessed with here in Louisiana. During this COVID-19 pandemic, while many of you have been sheltering at home, the good folks at the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development have been working feverishly to put the best face on our state, out cleaning up our roadways during the diminished traffic capacity that's been forced upon us by COVID-19. The Secretary of DOTD, Dr. Shawn Wilson, joins us to talk a little DOTD talk in this segment. Secretary Wilson, how are you, my friend?
I'm well, Clarence, and good morning to you and your listeners.
So DOTD has been busy cleaning up the roadways during this diminished traffic from COVID-19. What have those efforts entailed?
You make a very good point in your opening about how we disrespect our state with so much litter. But there's some ongoing operations that we deal with at DOTD, growing grass, dirt and dust and gravel. All of those things contribute to the safety of the road and the overall driver experience. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, with so much to do on our list and so little time, those things sometimes get pushed to the end of the list so that we can fill a pothole or that we can unclog a drain or we can make sure the lights work or our guardrail is put back up. And so oftentimes we don't get the opportunity to get out and do the type of work that folks demand and would like us to do, which is cleaning up our state basically. And so we're using this time to focus on some of the projects that we don't normally get to because it requires a lane closure in order to be safe. As you know, in the past, we've lost 3 individuals since I've been secretary, and another one has been greatly impacted because of a crash while he was cleaning up. And so we don't always like to put our people in harm's way, but it's part of our responsibility. And so with the reduced traffic, we've dedicated the last week and this week, and we will do this as long as we can,
to addressing some of those sore spots on our system that will not necessarily be a disruption for traffic. We're seeing our regular contractors do more work during the daytime instead of at night because they can, and it's a little bit cheaper and can get more done. We can do the same thing from an operational standpoint. So all across the state, each district is targeting certain locations where they go in and blow out drains and pull up debris and grass and just do a major facelift that we might sometimes drive by, or that citizens drive by and think, oh, it's nothing to do that. It's a pretty heavy lift to go out and do some of that work under traffic.
Unfortunately, ever since your administration started, you've been behind the 8 ball as far as funding is concerned. It is something that we have neglected in the state of Louisiana, and unfortunately, you are the one and the great folks at DOTD that end up many times bearing the brunt of that shortfall. Double whammy now with this COVID-19 pandemic and an expected budget shortfall of anywhere from $500 million to $1.5 billion. How are you feeling about this anticipated budget shortfall and what that will mean for your efforts in modernizing the transportation infrastructure in our state, Dr. Wilson?
Very good question, and it's somewhat of a catch-22 because with a short budget, you really can't modernize your system. I'm more interested in triaging the system because if I just make my balanced budget work, we will not have an opportunity to do a whole lot extra. And so what's at risk is the regular program that we're operating under, and unfortunately, many of the things we were talking about earlier in terms of cleaning up and the operational pieces are the first things to cut because they're the quickest things that I could go out and reduce the number of mowing contracts by 1 or 2, or some of the litter contracts. And so those are the quick ways that we go about reducing our budget when we have a shortfall. But you're absolutely right that we're dealing with a generational neglect. We've gone 3 generations, if you will, 30-plus years, without keeping up with inflation and adjusting our revenue. Meantime, everything that we do costs more, even the simple things like cleaning out ditches and removing debris and trash from the interstates or the roadways. And so what we're going to do is do our best to make it work. Governor Edwards has done a phenomenal job and committed some of the surplus money that we've gotten from last year to us that would do a couple of things. It'll allow us to dredge the Mississippi River to 50 feet that the Corps has now funded. That could be put on hold. As you know, we've always spent extra money at the end of the fiscal year because we've been so successful at matching all of our money. Those $20 million that could generate another $80 million is going to be put on hold. And then the regular program, which is about 300-plus projects, there's a potential without the state match. Those projects could drop as much as 100-plus projects or less, depending on what we receive. While we're committed to doing it, I know everyone is looking for infrastructure. All the legislators talk about looking for infrastructure. These things just have to be funded, and unfortunately, our only revenue source is generated by traffic, and our traffic numbers have dropped to the tune of about 35% around the country. And as a result, here in Louisiana, we're seeing the same thing. So our revenue, which is not going to be verified for another 3 months for this month, is dropping to the tune of 40% or more. So that's the money that we use to match the federal dollars. And without that, those dollars are going to stay in Washington. Your tax dollars could potentially stay in Washington.
You talk about the diminished traffic volume all across Louisiana and the nation, for that matter. In a tragic irony, while the traffic volume has gone down, for the same period a year ago, our fatal accidents have risen by 8% here in Louisiana. Why do you think that is, Dr. Wilson?
Clearly, that's what I would attribute primarily to driver responsibility, distracted driving, driving under the influence, inattentive driving. You may not be distracted, but you may not be paying the necessary attention. We're seeing an increase in the number of accidents involving pedestrians and bicyclists with vehicles. Those are all preventable if we pay attention and we focus. And so while our numbers have gone up in terms of accidents, and in fact, we have been put on notice by year in terms of our safety ratings and bringing those numbers down, there's a ripple effect down the road. We're good this year, but going forward, we have to focus on what is the real deliverable, which is safety. And so in this COVID response, the fact that folks have stayed at home, which is healthy, we want to support the governor's declaration to be safe and prevent the spread and be mindful of those public health issues. It's a double-edged sword because we want people to be safe, but we also know that we have to fund these priorities for roads so that we can build an economy. And let's not forget, the more we spend on infrastructure, the more jobs are created, primary and secondary jobs. Billions of dollars can go into infrastructure that create long-term opportunities. Those are tax-paying citizens that aren't going to be on the payroll of the government for unemployment. So there's a trickiness to this game, and our goal is to stay active and do the best we can and live within our budget.
We, as we watched this whole thing unfold, very early understood that transportation and development is certainly, quote, essential. Has the diminished traffic allowed you to get ahead on any particular projects?
You know, I've often said you can't catch up if you can't keep up. Mm-hmm. And in this business, it's hard to do that because weather impacts us. On average, we're seeing 20 to 30% more rain out all across Louisiana. Just this year, we've had 3, maybe 4 major weather incidents where tornadoes touch down. All of that impacts construction. And we factor that into our bids. Unfortunately, the increased rain is higher than what we factor in to the contracts that we've awarded last year or contracts that are ongoing, maybe a 2-year contract. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is you get these rain delays on projects. On these days when we have great weather like we've been having recently, when we have less traffic and we can focus and go a little bit faster in what we do, we're allowed to catch up. And so it would be disingenuous to tell you that this project or any project finished faster because of traffic. Mm-hmm. What I can tell you is that most of the projects, because they continue to operate, have been able to make up time on their projects that may have been lost because of unforeseen issues like weather. And so it's also been a safer environment for our contractors out there because we've had less traffic, even though some people seem to use this as an opportunity to speed through a construction zone. All of that impacts how well we can drive. And in fact, today, I drove through the I-10 project in Henderson, and we're now driving on new pavement. We made the switch from the Highland 73 project. We're driving on new pavement. Had we stopped all that work, we wouldn't be here today driving on new pavement. It might come, or it will come, 2 or 3 weeks down the road, but it's here already. So that's an example of how remaining relevant and continuing our work effort contributes to us delivering a project either on schedule or slightly earlier than anticipated. So it's a dynamic process when you're working outdoors.
How frustrating has it been for you, Dr. Wilson, watching the international feud going on that is keeping oil prices depressed, understanding that we need people to drive and we need that revenue from the gas tax? It's got to be pretty frustrating from your end.
Well, you know, on one hand, it's frustrating, not so much from the volatility in the market, because I'd much rather control our own destiny, but the structure of what we have here in Louisiana gives me a little bit of flexibility. Meaning, I think paying 16 cents if gas is $1.25, or if it's $3.25, I'm collecting the same amount.
Right.
The impact of that price difference that's a result of this international conflict here now is that traffic should be increasing because gas prices are relatively low because of the flooding of the market of oil and gas. That's not happening in part because of COVID during our prime driving season. And so it is somewhat frustrating to see the international market and that instability because it affects the overall state budget and it affects our overall financial condition as a state. But as it relates to transportation, we're relatively steady except for the COVID response of what we're seeing in terms of the price of gas and what people are doing. Even if folks were continuing to drive at their normal rates, we'd be much better off today than we are. But because of the stay-at-home order and because of the pandemic, they've not been able to drive regardless of the international instability. And so on one hand, the timing couldn't be better for these low prices if you're in oil and gas or if you're here at the state. We're going to have a hard time recovering from this. We expect somewhere in the neighborhood of $50 million a quarter that we're going to be short just in the gas taxes alone.
Finally, Dr. Wilson, it was well documented that you had your own battle with the coronavirus, COVID-19, if you will. Now that you've been able to recover fully, step back and take a look at that whole experience, what did you take away from it, Dr. Wilson?
You know, I thank God every day that I'm still here, but I also look around me and see such sadness, and I see the 2,000 plus people who have succumbed to this thing, and realize that there's so much more that we could be doing. There's so much more responsibility we could be taking to protect our neighbors and our family members and our friends, things like wearing a mask and seeing the number of people that aren't doing that. So my takeaway is I have a responsibility to help take care of other people, and I can do that with my actions, not necessarily mandating it on anyone else. I can wear a mask. Whether or not I have immunity is left for the scientists, but the idea that I'm sending a message that I'm a civil servant, a public servant, and I'm being responsible, that's the most important takeaway for me right now. Other than, I think this world is much smaller than we thought it was. We're much more vulnerable than we think we are, and we're much more connected than we think we are. And I am grateful for the people who prayed for me and the folks who checked on me. Even people who I didn't think would really care reached out, and that's a wonderful feeling to hear from those people. And we just got to be a family and get through this thing.
Secretary of the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development, Dr. Shawn Wilson, always great to talk with you, my friend. Nothing but God's best for you and yours.
Thank you, and happy Mother's Day to all those ladies who had a celebration yesterday. So thank you, Clarence.
You're quite welcome, sir. He is a true public servant, and he takes the obligation, as you just heard him say, very seriously for the trust that we've placed in him. Now, all that being said, I don't envy him one iota, because when this budget shortfall becomes a reality, his agency, rest assured, is going to be left wanting at the very least. Final break of hour one. We'll get her done, and we'll talk more with you on the Clarence Bugg Show right here on the Pelican. Stay close.
Hi, I'm Bobby Yarborough with Manda Fine Meats. Here at Manda, we know what the folks of South Louisiana love. They love great flavored smoked sausage, delicious deli meats, and specialty items like boudin and andouille sausage. Manda Fine Meats has been providing these products since 1947. We produce them right here in Baton Rouge, so you know you're always getting the freshest product at your local grocery store. Manda Fine Meats. Taste the fresh local flavor in everything we make. Make it Manda every time.
No one can stop me when I taste the feeling. Nothing could ever bring me down. Nothing could ever bring me down. Taste the feeling.
Exiles from what, you ask? Exiled from the radio, but now we're on your television.
I'm Bill Profita, he's Kevin Gallagher, and they kicked us to the curb.
But we're back.
We are back with Exiles Television on the Pelican Broadcasting Network. We're going to bring you the newsmakers. We're also going to take your calls and give you great information. It's going to be the best damn radio show on television.
Look for it on your cable system or download the app, PelicanSportsTV.com.
From appetizers, pasta dishes, and entrees, La Contea takes pride in preparing all the Italian cuisine we know you love. Enjoy live music every Thursday through Saturday from 6 to 9, happy hour weekdays from 3 to 6, and brunch on Sundays from 11 to 2, as well as dinner portion-sized lunch specials for under $10. Visit our website to view our menu and book a party or meeting in our large banquet room. Once you try La Contea, your Italian dining will change forever.
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to GreysstoneCountryClub.com.
Welcome back for our final segment of hour one of today's edition of the Clarence Bugg Show. It is a sad day in the music industry and the music family, as a couple of very notable individuals passed over the weekend. Little Richard, arguably the architect of rock and roll, passing away this weekend. The family is not releasing the cause of death at this time. Born Richard Penniman. Wonder how many people actually ever knew him as Richard Penniman as opposed to Little Richard. He was one of rock and roll's founding fathers, but more so than that, Little Richard joined the likes of Chuck Berry and Fats Domino in bringing what was once called race music into the mainstream. He was one of those individuals that had an electric and at the same time eclectic personality. It was impossible to meet this guy that sold during his career more than 30 million records worldwide and not come away as a different person. He is gone, but certainly will not be forgotten. Little Richard dying at the age of 87. Also, I mentioned that two visionaries left us over the weekend. Betty Wright, the cleanup woman, passing away at the age of 66 due to a long battle with cancer, not COVID related in any way, shape, or form. She was one of those individuals that believed in legacy. Her legacy, pardon the pun there, may well be that she spent so much time mentoring others because she believed in legacy and the integrity of the music. So if you are scanning your channels today and you run across shows playing a lot of Betty Wright and their bumper music or a lot of Little Richard, just in case you were out of the loop over the weekend, you'll know that it is to honor the contributions made by those two amazing individuals to the world of music. We have other news to share with you as well, and unfortunately, we've had to do this a lot more regularly than I would like to, but it is the nature of the beast. You've heard me say countless times, things like this pandemic will show us two things: the best humanity has to offer and the worst humanity has to offer. It's as though these scammers are allotted 40 hours to every day and 8 days every week because they come up with more ways to illegally separate you from your money than you can imagine. Parish deputies in Assumption Parish are giving folks in Louisiana the heads up to be on the alert for text messages that claim your credit card or your debit card has been locked. They are encouraging everyone to disregard any messages of this nature. One version of the scam that deputies are tracking originates from a coded number, and it says it's from Capital One. The message is numbered MSG 7133. Jot that down or lock it into your brain, MSG 7133. If you receive a text from that number saying that we need your assistance because your debit card or your credit card has been locked, automatically hang up on those clowns. If you're unsure that the message is legitimate or not, then contact the company directly through their official website or using an official phone number. And please, tell all your friends, allow them the luxury of being able to hold on to their money the way they should. And if you receive this call, promptly, after hanging up on these clowns, call the Better Business Bureau, call your local law enforcement agencies, and report that. The only way that we can stop this proliferation of scams is if we all band together and allow law enforcement to give us the assistance that we need in that regard. It is unfortunately not the last scam we're going to hear about, and unfortunately, every time you turn around, they will come fast and furious. So, keep your wits about you. I understand for many people, credit card, debit card right now, it's your lifeline. I get it. So you might be tempted to panic when you see that message or get a call in that regard. Discretion is the better part of valor. Hang on to your money. Tell these clowns where to get off, report them, and continue on about your merry way. Today at 2:30, Governor John Bel Edwards will address the state of Louisiana, and hopefully his numbers, his research and insight will conclude that we are ready to proceed to phase one of the reopening of our state's economy. It is something that it's going to take us a while to dig out of, quite frankly. And realistically, looking at our state's finances heading into this year, not rosy at best. And now piling this on as well, got to get back to business, y'all, and we need to do it ASAP. Now, that being said, there will also be a lot of responsibility that comes along with this. I am going to just write off as cabin fever combined with Mother's Day. But going to a store yesterday, the number of large family gatherings, I'm talking 30, 40 people or more, that I happened to stumble across yesterday was really disheartening. I understand it's Mother's Day. I understand she's the light of your life. I understand you wouldn't be where you are without the sacrifices that she made. But now is the time we should be sacrificing for her. It was disheartening at the least. And I had to ask myself how much of this was due to the fact that a lot of people are still ignorant of what's going on out there, and how much of it was due to cabin fever. I don't know, probably 6 on one hand, half dozen on the other. But at the end of the day, personal responsibility is the only way we're going to get past this. And the sooner we lock that in our minds and adjust our actions accordingly, the better off we're going to be. It's real simple. Let me put it to you this way. If you want to have football this fall, we need to be responsible. Got your attention, didn't I? Figured I would. If you want football this fall, we've got to be responsible now. And quite frankly, I don't think there's a person watching right now that doesn't want football. If they don't, they're not bold enough to say it to anybody else in the state of Louisiana. Just saying. We want football, and we want it desperately. But the only way we're going to get it is if we govern ourselves accordingly. And yeah, I'm a huge football fan, but I'll be okay because March 17th, next Sunday, boogity, boogity, boogity. The NASCAR boys, we go back racing. Darlington, can't wait. And I don't want to, wear my NASCAR on my shoulders, but we'll be the first major sport to get back in operation after COVID-19. That ought to tell you something. I know, y'all ride me about being a big-time NASCAR fan, but that's okay. I will be yelling and screaming in front of the TV on Sunday while a whole lot of other folks are saying, I wish we had some football to watch. It's coming. Just hang in there and continue to govern yourselves accordingly. Cross those fingers, toes, eyes. Those of you that are members of the community of faith, whisper a prayer or two that Governor John Bel Edwards will have some good news for us at 2:30 this afternoon. It's going to be a slow process either way it goes, but we'll get through this. We're Louisianians. We're Americans. It's what we do. End of the day, we've never seen anything like COVID-19, but quite frankly, the coronavirus has never seen anything like Americans. Just saying. Top of the hour break, we'll get her done. And after that, a guy that might be having some second thoughts about his career choice. Would you want to be a mayor? We'll talk with Matt Watson, see what he thinks. That's next.
Hello, guys. It's Debbie. It's time. I've got a brand new location. 10510 Airline Highway, Baton Rouge, next to After 5 Tuxedos. We have the perfect spot to get all your wedding and formal wear needs. Come see our one-of-a-kind name brand and get great prices. With 30 years experience, the best customer service anywhere. It's Debbie's Bridal, Airline Highway, Baton Rouge. See you soon.
No one can stop me when I taste the feeling. Nothing could ever bring me down. Nothing could ever bring me down. Taste the feeling.
For total home pest control, who are you going to call?
Call the Bug Man, 923-BUGS.
For total pest control for your home or business, call the original Salvat.
Call the Bug Man today, 923-BUGS.
All right, Alan, that's your one for the year, okay? Welcome back to the start of hour 2 of today's edition of the Clarence Bug Show. On set with us today is a gentleman that all folks here in East Baton Rouge are well acquainted with. He is the Metro Councilman for District 11, Matt Watson, and also candidate for mayor in the great parish of East Baton Rouge. So any second thoughts about running after watching all of this COVID-19 and the havoc that it's wreaking, Matt?
Not one. I'll tell you what, if we had financial woes before COVID-19,
Right.
took a big chunk out of our sales tax. From what I'm hearing is $23 million. It'd probably be a little bit more than that out of local funding.
Right.
I mean, we needed to be smarter about how we were spending our money and knocking over 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different birds with one stone before we lost this revenue.
Right.
If anything, it's made me feel even more like it's a necessity for me to go do it, because I want to be mayor because that's the way for me to affect the change that I want to affect, not because I just want to be mayor.
Right.
That's the place I need to be to affect the positive change that I want to get done. And now it's even more urgent.
What does Matt Watson bring to the table?
Well, I'll tell you what, as a third generation of entrepreneurs, my family has had construction businesses. So as soon as I was old enough to carry my dad's tools, I was put to work for a pay of a ham sandwich for lunch.
Right.
My mother ran some McDonald's before she retired from that, opened her own restaurant. Then she got in the business of turning failing restaurants over for folks that had failing restaurants, and you learned what it was like to run a small business. You learned what it was like to have employees that depended on that paycheck and the success of that small business so they could go home and feed their own families, and how much value sweat equity really brings to the table rather than just plain old cash.
You look at your district, District 11, as best you can tell, how have they fared during this pandemic?
I've seen Very well, very well. I've got some areas, and we got some. Haynes gave us a bunch of masks to hand out. We've had other council people that will set up shop and have a day of giving out the masks at a place that'll get a lot of foot traffic, like a Walmart or something like that.
Right.
In so much as I know my district, I know I've got certain neighborhoods with a high density of people over the age of 65.
Right.
So I communicate with those folks and bring the masks directly to them, and they disperse them amongst themselves. I've got some really large subdivisions that are aging, and really they needed to get these masks, and if they wouldn't even get out necessarily other than to walk in the neighborhood, they certainly wouldn't have dared to go to a Walmart because their kids are the ones going to get their groceries for them. But they needed to get those masks. So from folks that I'm talking to, they're doing pretty well. I'll knock on wood here that we're blessed, that we're doing well. But all in all, I don't want to make any predictions that we're going to make it out of this fine, because that's a sure way to be proven wrong.
Yep.
But right now, we've done very well, and I think everyone's very lucky because of it.
Matt, how would you rate our city's response as far as the citizenry and how we have adhered to social distancing, the governor's stay-home orders, et cetera, et cetera? One through 5.
I would, well, if you're going to put it,
or A through F.
Let's put it at 3.5.
Okay.
Because we do have some folks that, as you mentioned in a previous segment, that feel we're on the other side of all this and everything's going fine, and they don't know anyone who's sick,
Right.
so they're going to be okay. They feel healthy enough that they're going to be okay. I don't want those people to get us in a situation where when we get into fall, when viruses do come back like flu or anything else, that we get another situation of having a breakdown where we have our economy take the beating that it's taken so far. I want to get this behind us. But all in all, and again, I'll knock on wood, I have yet to go into a grocery store and see anybody with a shortness of a temper. I've yet to see anybody that really couldn't get something that the truckers that service our parish can't come and bring and fill the shelves back up, so people have something to do. I do a whole lot of volunteer work out with a bunch of other stuff, but when I see on social media, everybody else is out there doing something else, and I'm so proud of the response of people taking it seriously themselves and people going out of their way to try to take care of their neighbors. I mean, it's things like this that remind me again and again how great the people of Louisiana are, because they look out for each other, and it's more of a family than just a state.
2:30 this afternoon, Governor John Bel Edwards expected to address the state, and we are all hoping that his research will allow us to proceed to phase 1 of the reopening. What are you hoping to hear the governor say today, Matt?
I'm hoping to hear that we have very easy to follow, very clear guidelines that will allow the most businesses to open as we can safely open, so long as there's very easy to follow, clear guidelines, so that we don't get back into another bump, because that's what we don't want to have. I want to let people, when you think about people who, I don't go anywhere to get my nails done, but I've seen the places before. These ladies are wearing masks and wearing gloves when everyone's healthy. Why this sort of business couldn't open, I'm not so sure. When you've got small businesses owned by local folks here that can't be opened, but you can see 300 people in Home Depot and Lowe's, it makes me wonder, how are we making decisions on what can be open and what can't be open?
Right. The next mayor, because of COVID-19 and the economic havoc that was wreaked on our economy, is going to have to be someone that can build consensus, can reach across the aisle, can work with all sorts of people. Is that where Matt Watson excels?
Well, I'll tell you what, my personal belief is ideology, political ideology, does not fix broken windows. Ideology does not get people back to work. Ideology won't fix our homeless problem. Ideology that's paired with practical, get your fingers dirty, work on the ground, that no matter what political party you're in can respect. Because I'll tell you what, if you see a half burned down building that needs to be torn down, there's not a person with sight that can't see the difference between the wreckage that was there and the freshly mowed yard that exists after that, and see that something positive has been done. I'll tell you another thing is, I have gotten numerous potholes filled, and not a single one of them was registered as Republican or Democrat.
So what do you think the next mayor's biggest challenges are going to be?
Accomplishing what taxpayers expect to get done, whether it's property owners, as so many property owners feel that their property tax, that they're the primary taxpayers here. It's really not. 60% of all the taxes that we have in the budget are generated through sales tax. So anyone who's out there buying anything with sales tax, I'm talking about every sales tax person.
Right.
Everybody who pays sales tax needs to get the services that they deserve, and we need to find an efficient way of delivering those services. Because I'll tell you what, the more efficiently we can deliver the services people deserve, the more people we can serve with the same amount of money.
In talking with your fellow Metro Council members, what are you taking away from how Baton Rouge has fared with this pandemic?
It varies on different people's perspective. You've got other folks that are really pushing, saying we need to reopen right now, this is ridiculous, we need to open right now. You've got other folks that aren't really spending much time out of their house. And it's all a matter of how they personally feel about the dangers or what they're prioritizing as far as what we need to be working on right now. So it's really across the board.
In the parish of East Baton Rouge, there is a sizable African American population.
Certainly.
And the COVID-19 pandemic has brought to the forefront some huge inequities as far as the health of minority communities versus other communities in EBR
Certainly.
are concerned. Any plans to address that for voters?
Well, I think, first of all, you have to move the needle again. We've talked about this numerous times before, of having daily general practitioner care for people so they don't use the emergency room as their general practitioner, because prevention is what will help you take care of your diabetes. Prevention will let you take care of your obesity. Changes in lifestyle by the direction of a physician to reduce alcohol consumption, reduce smoking, reduce consumption of fatty foods. All those things contribute to those other health reasons that makes a person more vulnerable to COVID-19, which we're in the middle of right now. Those things need to be addressed. Getting people more active. I applaud anyone who's out there getting people more active. I've switched to almost exclusively riding a bicycle around town, and it's helped me lose the COVID-19 lbs that have gotten me, because I'm not taking the stairs at work and moving around as much as I used to because of the change that COVID-19's given us. But we need to get people more active. We need to get people communicating with one another about eating healthy and seeing doctors, and having the doctors tell people what's the best way of living life, rather than having a politician tell someone what the best way is to live their life, and making sure that they can have those conversations.
Obviously, folks from all walks of life are having to adjust to this new reality. What's the campaign been like, and what are you anticipating it's going to be like as we continue to work our way out of this situation?
Well, I'll tell you what, any campaign, regardless of whether it's mine or anyone else's, is going to be significantly impacted by COVID-19. You can't go out as of right now, I can't go out and have a group of people at a restaurant. I can't go out and meet with some people at a church or something of that nature where people would be gathered together, because those opportunities just aren't available right now, because people can't be in large groups together. So you've got to communicate directly with people, which is something that I've prided myself on. I spend a lot of time communicating directly with people. I mean, so many people, to the chagrin of my children, have my cell phone number, or can text me or send me an email at all hours of the night. And I'm pretty good at responding to almost all of them, no matter whether it's 10 o'clock on a Sunday night. I mean, if it's something that needs to be addressed right now, I'll address it right now. And I plan on taking that aspect of my personality is going to be a huge part of the campaign.
Folks watching right now, if they honor Metro Councilman Matt Watson with their vote for mayor of EBR, what can they expect?
They can expect going through the budget, working with the council so that we can make the most use of the money that's already coming on the budget, because we certainly cannot go ask anyone for any more money. because they've had an economic downturn that's hurt people with businesses. It's hurt people who worked at those businesses, and we just asked for money for some other projects. So we can't go back to the well, as it were, because the well very well could be dry. We need to make the most of the money that's already coming in, and it needs to be effective, and we need to have the people that live in this community see practical, on-the-ground solutions that they can say, I see a change. I see it changing every day, and it's getting better every day. And I hope that that gets started. If I get elected, God bless, day one, and it's going to be a tough road to hoe, but I mean, there's nothing worth doing that's not difficult.
If the guy continues to run for this office, that tells you something. He must really want this job. Metro Councilman for District 11, Matt Watson, great to see you, my friend.
Nice to see you, Clarence.
God bless you.
Thank you.
First break of hour 2, we'll get this out of the way and talk more with you on the Clarence Buggs Show right here on the Pelican. Stay close.
Appreciate it.
Sometimes life is wonderful, and sometimes it's not. Cherish the good, but always be prepared for life's challenges. At Private Healthcare, we provide the peace of mind you deserve. With Private Healthcare, you'll get the coverage you want and healthcare you need. If your employer doesn't supply healthcare coverage and you don't qualify for Medicare or Medicaid, you need to give us a call right now. Private Healthcare is private health insurance for ages 65 and under with medical, dental, vision, and even prescription coverage. When life comes at you unexpectedly, you need to be ready, and health insurance is your financial safety net. Health insurance has never been so easy and affordable. If you're looking for health coverage at the best price and your annual household income is $35,000 or more, call the number on the screen now and speak with a live healthcare consultant. Don't wait. Get the coverage you need now.
I'll leave for a little while. And all you other letters think you can take over my town. Look at you. No issues even involved. If the people want the money they deserve for their accident,
the E-guarantee.
And as for you other letters, it's time you were erased.
That's right, the Clarence Buggs Show is back, along with the Exiles, Bill Profita and Kevin Gallagher. We put the band back together, South Louisiana's talk team, and it's only on the Pelican. 10 a.m. till 12 noon, right here on the Pelican.
From appetizers, pasta dishes, and entrees, La Contea takes pride in preparing all the Italian cuisine we know you love. Enjoy live music every Thursday through Saturday from 6 to 9, happy hour weekdays from 3 to 6, and brunch on Sundays from 11 to 2, as well as dinner portion-sized lunch specials for under $10. Visit our website to view our menu and book a party or meeting in our large banquet room. Once you try La Contea, your Italian dining will change forever.
Welcome back to hour 2 of today's edition of the Clarence Buggs Show. It was announced recently that we LSU fans are going to be able to relive all the hype of the Tigers' best ever season. Personally, I think it's, the greatest season in the history of college football, but that's just me. You'll get to see what happened behind closed doors of the Tigers' national championship season with the release of a new documentary. The SEC Network will broadcast the hour-long documentary about the whole 2019 football season and Joe Burrow's Heisman run. It is set to air 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday, May 13th, and will be called One for the Ages. According to ESPN, it is produced by Jim Jordan Productions, the creative team behind SEC Insight. And to add a little icing to that cake, immediately following One for the Ages, the 1-hour documentary, there will be a replay of LSU's win over Clemson in the national championship game right after the documentary airs. So keep that in mind. It is certainly one for the ages, no pun intended, and it is set to air 7:30 p.m. on Wednesday, May 13th, one for the ages. Speaking of football, the NFL releasing its schedule and doing so with the understanding that, like other major sports, there's the possibility the season will start and then, wait a minute, we got to back this thing up some. We've got to shorten the season or whatever. It is a possibility that COVID-19 related circumstances could impact what we are all hoping would be just a normal football season. Some players expressing reservation about playing if there's not a vaccine developed in time for the start of the season. And of course, there are tons of fans everywhere that, as much as they are jonesing for some football, still have some reservations about going to an actual game. So I'd like to ask you, 831, Marty, 831-1029. Hadn't used it in so long, almost forgot it. 225-831-1029. Are you planning on going to football games this fall? Is it realistic to expect the guys to play without a vaccine? And is football really football without fans in the stands? An interesting quote from an NFL player saying, if there are no stands, no fans in the stands, that's just practice. It's not real football. Is it football if there are no fans in the stands? Conventional wisdom says if you are a professional, if you respect the game, if you honor the sport, it doesn't matter if there are fans in the stands or not. You're going to give 100% when you step onto the field. But there's also, obviously, that intangible, the 12th man, if you will. There is something magical about how fans can change the momentum of a game. There's something magical about the electricity that flows from a hyper fan base like the Saints or LSU or Southern or any other number of fan bases. Not having them in the stands, obviously, is a huge downer, certainly for the guys that are on the field. I mean, quite frankly, many former football players will tell you that's the thing they miss most from their playing days. The adulation of the crowd, the electricity of the crowd, the way the crowd can change the tenor of a game. But quite frankly, at this point, I'm a little hesitant to forecast whether or not, one, we're even going to play the games, and two, how many fans will be allowed into the stands. Your heart has to go out, obviously, to the colleges and universities across this country, because the fall is the time that is make or break for many of them. The amount of money that many programs contribute to their annual budget from fall and football, I don't know if anyone's ever conducted a study. I'm sure there has to be one somewhere. But that amount of money is monumental. And when you take that out of the equation, education could radically be changed forever. A lot of students will stay in the non-traditional distance learning mode. Of course, now, if you are an athlete, then you really don't have that luxury. So, are you planning right now, as things stand and the way things look, are you planning on some football this fall? Is it realistic? Are we being selfish if we ask the guys to play, because God knows America needs some football desperately. But is it realistic, and is it quite frankly selfish, to expect them to play without a vaccine? And an empty stadium with just the teams, is that really football? 225-831-1029. Byrd, you're up on the Clarence Bug Show. Hey, Byrd, how are you today, big guy?
Hey, man, we just, going along day by day.
So are you planning?
Groundhog Day.
Are you planning on football, or are you in that I'm just going to wait and see mode right now?
Well, football here in Louisiana is like another religion, so I would think everybody's waiting for that. But I wanted to bring up something that just literally occurred in the last 30 minutes. Got a letter from Alyssa's school, Florida Tech, down in Florida, and they are ceasing football immediately.
Wow.
The program will not exist.
Now, I am assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, that is just for the foreseeable, the upcoming season?
They don't know. I mean, my whole point is that's why I was calling in to say how many more little small programs may just fall to the wayside, and before we get all out of shape here, just be thankful that we may still have a program going. But yeah, as of right now, it is completely gone.
Wow. Is football really football, Bert, without fans in the stands?
I got to say you need fans in the stands. I mean, I know it's going to be a hard thing, and I guess we all get in the lottery system or whatever, but, maybe we got to take that 100,000 seats, and it turns in only 25, 30, maybe 50,000 people in the seats. I don't know, whatever it needs. But I guess the good thing about LSU is, even though there's only 100,000 in the stadium, there's usually 200,000 outside. So I think people will still be there. Hopefully they can still, cheer loud enough outside the stadium for them.
The way it stands right now, based on what we've learned so far, what we know so far, what does your gut tell you, Bert? What percentage of our fellow Americans, if everything stays the same, this fall would go to a football game?
I think 150,000 people would show up for those 100,000 seats.
We want it that bad.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think people have been cooped up long enough. They're looking, and like I said, it's another religion here in Louisiana.
Is it realistic to ask these guys or expect them to play without a vaccine having been developed?
I think so, because there's lots of safety precautions in line, and it's not like they're interacting with the fans. I guess you could look at it and say, well, hell, you got 100,000 people sneezing on them, but again, they're keeping 6 feet from us, so who knows?
Well, the good news,
I think this whole thing is crazy. So
yeah, but the good news is, hopefully, we will not have to wait long to find out, Bert.
Hope so. I'm just saying, it's just that's a little dose of reality when you get a letter like that in the email today, saying that your program, that like where Alyssa's going, just completely gone. Mm-hmm. I would have never guessed that something like that would have been happening across America, but I guess it's starting to happen.
And what is that school again in Florida, Bert?
Florida Tech, Florida Institute of Technology, down in Melbourne, Florida. Again, it's a small program.
Right.
They play in the, I think, Gulf Coast League, whatever.
Right.
Again, I don't know enough about it because she just started here this year. But
right.
But yeah, it was just kind of shocking to see something like that. When they have a lot of sports there, so it was just kind of shocking to see that 120 players now won't be playing.
You've got a college-age daughter. If it were a son and your son wanted to play, what would you tell him, Bert?
I'd let him play.
Really?
Yeah.
You answered that real quick, Bert.
Well, it's no different than, Alyssa's out there training, and this, some things
some conferences have been canceled and all that, but she still continues doing her training. So, I mean, she's still kind of an athlete in a sense, and she's out there continuing her work of getting ready. So we haven't stopped any of that.
Awesome. Byrd, great to talk with you, my friend. Stay safe.
You too.
For those of you that don't know, Alyssa Carson, Byrd was referencing his daughter. Look for her, for those of us that will still be living when it happens, to be manning the first manned mission to Mars. One of the whiz kids here in the state of Louisiana with plans on being a big-time astronaut. And we all kind of, take a little credit for it, helping raise her. But she's Byrd's through and through. So, your child, will you let them play this fall? If your kid plays football, are you planning to go to the games this fall? And is football really football without fans in the stands screaming their lungs out? 225-831-1029 gets you aboard. Quick break, and we'll come back and talk more with you right where you've got it on the Clarence Bug Show here on the Pelican. Stay close.
For Total Home Pest Control, who are you going to call?
Call the Bug Man, 923-BUGS.
For total pest control for your home or business, call the original Salvat.
Call the Bug Man today, 923-BUGS.
No one can stop me when I taste the feeling. Nothing could ever bring me down. Nothing could ever bring me down. Taste the feeling.
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to GreystoneCountryClub.com.
Bolello's Furniture and Appliances, your dependable independent. Depend on us for service, for selection, for price. Get huge Whirlpool savings. Shop now and save on Whirlpool appliances throughout the store. Plus, experience our price match guarantee and ask about special financing. You can depend on the know-how of people who live appliances every day. Bolello's Furniture and Appliances, your dependable independent with nationwide buying power.
Exiles from what you ask, exiled from the radio, but now we're on your television.
I'm Bill Profita, he's Kevin Gallagher, and they kicked us to the curb.
But we're back.
We are back with Exiles Television on the Pelican Broadcasting Network. We're going to bring you the newsmakers. We're also going to take your calls and give you great information. It's going to be the best damn radio show on television.
Look for it on your cable system or download the app, PelicanSportsTV.com.
They said I could find you here. Why are you fishing? Our company's got to ship out 2 full color brochures and 20 color copies. You're killing me.
It's done. Designed, printed, packaged, and shipped.
How?
You just got to know the right people. Baker Printing, the printing people.
How come you get to fish in this private lake?
Like I said, you just got to know the right people. You can know the right people too.
Welcome back to Hour 2 of today's edition of the Clarence Bug Show. Commissioner Roger Goodell saying in a statement released recently, quote, "In preparing to play the season as scheduled, we will continue to make our decisions based on the latest medical and public health advice, in compliance with government regulations and with appropriate safety protocols to protect the health of our fans, players, club and league personnel, and our communities. We will be prepared to make adjustments as necessary, as we have during this off-season, in safely and efficiently conducting key activities such as free agency, the virtual off-season program, and the 2020 NFL Draft. That's from Roger Goodell. Now, when you ask the players themselves, some agree, others are of a different mindset. For example, Denver Broncos safety Kareem Jackson saying, quote, "I just think for us, it doesn't make sense to play any games unless it's completely 100% safe for us to go out there. If there's any threat to us being able to contract COVID or in any way, or spread it to our families or anybody else that we're around, it just doesn't make sense. I think I heard them say something about us playing with no fans and all that. That would be like practice, in my opinion. That would stink." Are you planning on football? Or are you just kind of putting that out of your mind saying, okay, I don't want to get too excited about all of this, as desperately as I miss it, as desperately as I need some, I don't want to get my hopes up only to have that rug snatched from beneath my feet. Are you planning on going to any games? Would you let your son play? And is it realistic or selfish to ask these guys to suit up and hit the field and there's not a vaccine to protect them? 225-831-1029. Grab a line. I'd love to talk with you. Oh, and the other question, is football really football without fans in the stands? Just last night, I'm watching a replay of a game and listening to the announcers, and they're commenting on the fan participation and how it has changed the course of the game. I would like to think that the players themselves would carry that burden. You've seen God knows how many games where the players and the coaches are wearing microphones. So you get the inside conversation of what's going on the sideline, in the huddle, so on and so forth. And there's always a cheerleading guy there. There's always the offense rooting for the defense rooting for the offense, special teams, what have you. It is like a bubble within a bubble, a microcosm of the game itself. But when you're talking 30, 40, 50, 60, 90, 100,000 people, that's an entirely different atmosphere from not having any fans in the stands. For me, I don't know if I would really consider it football, because there is a very vital missing ingredient there. The folks in Seattle would probably back me up on this. That fan base, and the Saints too for that matter, those two fan bases generate so much noise that it becomes a disruption in the game. The visiting offense, it's a disruption. They can literally change the game because of their involvement in this affair. Personally, technically, yeah, it's still football, but it is football minus an ingredient that you cannot put a price tag on, nor can you maybe gauge the importance. The field will still be 100 yards long. You'll still have 4 downs to get a first down. If you don't get it, you're going to have to punt. The rules will remain the same. But it's the intangibles involved that, for me, will leave it something less than what football should be. Debbie is on line 1. Debbie, good morning, and how are you today?
Hey, Clarence, how are you?
I'm well, thank you for asking. If you had a son that played football and starting the summer workouts, getting ready for the season, would you let your son play, Debbie?
Yep, if he wanted to. I want to be positive about the future.
Uh-huh.
So I think positivity and the things that people love, we have to look towards the future, that we can beat this thing. And there is a way for people to make things happen and to get around it. I mean, we can't just die and not have the things that we love. We have to be careful.
Right.
And but I do believe that we're going to find a vaccine. I mean, we've got the flu. We've got other things that we've got. We've so far handled it in a situation that we've handled it. Yes, people are getting tired and wanting to get out and so on and so forth. But I think a lot of the news media, and not you guys, but a lot of the news media are putting fake things out there for us to be afraid. We can't be afraid. God is in charge.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, God is in charge, and we've got some great scientists, we've got some great physicians, we've got people out there, and like you said, Louisiana, we're not going to just lay down and die. And looking forward to sports and things that we like. We're going to make a way. Whether it be half of a stadium or, whatever, we're going to make a way. We have to.
Speaking of that, is football really football without fans in the stands, Debbie?
There are always fans. And you know what? Everybody knows what's going on. So we have the Saints and the Tigers that are realizing what's going on, and they know the fans are there. Whatever way that we figure out to make it happen, this is our life. We cannot stop and just die.
Do you trust your fellow Louisianians enough to do the right thing when it comes to a stadium full of people, half full of people, whatever? Do you have enough faith in your fellow Louisianians that we could make this thing safe and possible?
I absolutely do, because we are behind our schools. If the kids are going to go back to college, we have to get back on track. If I'm going to open my business, then I have to be smart, but I have to open my business. I have to, help these brides out there that want to get married, and they're going to do different things. It's going to be different, but we can't allow this to not let us look towards the future and to back what generates people to be around other people, to do the right thing in order to have our team play. So we're going to support them. And I think these guys want to play, and if we all are safe and careful and follow guidelines, I think it's going to be tiny steps.
Right.
But we have to make those steps.
Speaking of those steps, Governor John Bel Edwards is set to address the state today at 2:30. As a business owner, Debbie, what are you hoping the governor will say to us today?
I'm hoping that he is going to, if you're allowing some gyms and, the workout places, tattoo parlors, then, there's beauticians out there, like the beautician that came out and said, hey, I have to feed my family.
Right.
Well, she was going to be smart and have one client in at a time. Yeah, she's not going to make the money she did before, but you can't sit back and die. You have to continue. And if that's what we need to do, is have one appointment at a time, have the mask, have, everything, then we can make it work. But we have to look towards the future and making our economy better and feeding our kids, our families.
So,
I've been working since I was 12 years old.
Right.
And I'm a small business owner. I don't have 50 employees.
Right.
But what I do is important.
Speaking of what you do, has anyone with Debbie's Bridal come up with a COVID-19 bride's mask yet? Do you have something with lace to match the veil and the gown and all this? Are you working on something like that?
honey, we're working on it.
Fantastic. Debbie,
Look at all these graduation people, the kids. They're finding ways to have a graduation, okay? And they're doing it safe.
Right.
And their parents are going, hey, they have been through school all these years. They deserve a graduation. They deserve a prom. Brides deserve a wedding because it's all about God marrying two people for life.
Yeah.
It's not just about the big party and everything else.
Right.
So we're smart people, and we can make this work.
Debbie, with Debbie's Bridal, a formal affair, great to talk with you. Stay safe out there, Debbie.
All right, you too, hon.
It's a new reality. It is what it is. And I hate to keep rubbing this in y'all's faces, but, this Sunday, starting this Sunday, I'll be fine. Life will have returned to normal for me because NASCAR goes racing. Football, I got my fingers crossed because I love my Saints, love my Tigers, love my Jaguars, love all Louisiana college football teams. It is something I just grew up doing. But at the end of the day, is it still football if you and I aren't in the stands? Grab a line. 225-831-1029 will get you aboard on the final segment of today's edition of the Clarence Bugg Show, coming up right after this commercial break here on the Pelican.
From appetizers, pasta dishes, and entrees, La Contea takes pride in preparing all the Italian cuisine we know you love. Enjoy live music every Thursday through Saturday from 6 to 9, happy hour weekdays from 3 to 6, and brunch on Sundays from 11 to 2, as well as dinner portion-sized lunch specials for under $10. Visit our website to view our menu and book a party or meeting in our large banquet room. Once you try La Contea, your Italian dining will change forever.
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to GreystoneCountryClub.com.
Hello, guys. It's Debbie. It's time. I've got a brand new location. 10510 Airline Highway, Baton Rouge, next to After 5 Tuxedos. We have the perfect spot to get all your wedding and formal wear needs. Come see our one-of-a-kind name brand and get great prices. With 30 years experience, the best customer service anywhere. It's Debbie's Bridal, Airline Highway, Baton Rouge. See you soon.
That's right, the Clarence Bugg Show is back, along with the Exiles, Bill Profita and Kevin Gallagher. We've put the band back together, South Louisiana's talk team, and it's only on the Pelican. 10 a.m. till 12 noon, right here on the Pelican.
Hello. Hola. Ni hao.
Experience what the Baton Rouge International School can offer your children. Now welcoming displaced students for short and long-term stability.
Hi, I'm Bobby Yarborough with Manda Fine Meats. Here at Manda, we know what the folks of South Louisiana love. They love great flavored smoked sausage, delicious deli meats, and specialty items like boudin and andouille sausage. Manda Fine Meats has been providing these products since 1947. We produce them right here in Baton Rouge, so you know you're always getting the freshest product at your local grocery store. Manda Fine Meats. Taste the fresh local flavor in everything we make. Make it Manda every time.
Back for our final segment on today's edition of the Clarence Bugg Show. Don't forget, guys and girls, tomorrow, same time, same station, same location. The Exiles, Bill Profita and Kevin Gallagher, will be at the desk. And check them out if you've not already done so. They'd love to have you in the viewing audience. And great opportunity for you to talk with some Louisiana folks about the problems that are plaguing the state of Louisiana. 2:30 this afternoon, Governor John Bel Edwards expected to address the state, and we are all desperately hoping that the research, the numbers, the stats will lead the governor to easing us into phase one of the reopening. I did not this past weekend keep track of the numbers. You can only, do this so much and so many times before you recognize the patterns and you realize that things are starting to level off and maybe we're approaching that point. Let's just hope that Governor John Bel Edwards sees fit to start easing us into phase one. It is crippling, the effect on our economy. And at the end of the day, I don't know how Louisiana fares with other states as far as the number of locally owned and operated businesses. But I know for a fact our fellow Louisianians are hurting. There are people out there that live with us, work with us, play with us, worship with us, who have had their lives turned completely upside down. And quite frankly, it is one of the tenets of the American dream that is so very special and in many ways unique to our way of life. It is one of those situations where if you are willing to put in the sweat equity, if you're willing to make the sacrifice, if you're willing to get up before everybody else and stay later than everybody else, then you can see your dream come true. Starting that business, continuing the business that your parents or grandparents started, it is one of the things that we cherish in the United States of America. And quite frankly, there are a whole lot of our fellow Louisianians right now that are wondering whether or not they are going to be able to continue down that road. Now, that being said, you and I can help those individuals immensely. Support the local businesses, particularly restaurants that are serving to-go items and those that are engaging in patio dining out of doors. Understanding it is going to take a little discipline on your part. It is going to take some sacrifice on their part. But at the end of the day, small businesses are the engine that drives the economy of the United States of America and Louisiana, for that matter. And without them, there's the obvious shortfall of general budget revenue, but there's more so than anything else a loss of quality of life. Nothing against the big national chains. They are what they are and they do what they do. But I would be willing to venture a guess that the majority of people watching right now, their favorite places to shop, whether it's for clothes, for food, for a meal, a car, household furnishings, whatever. Their favorite places to shop typically are the locally owned and operated businesses. Why? Well, because they're Louisiana folks that own them. It's Louisiana folks that run them. And quite frankly, nothing against, the great folks in the Lone Star State of Texas, nothing against our friends in the Magnolia State up in Mississippi, but nobody knows how to treat Louisiana folks like Louisiana folks. It is what it is. At the end of the day, Texas will probably say the same thing. Clarence, I understand all that, but nobody knows how to treat Texans like Texans. I get that. The folks up in Mississippi will probably say the same thing. But when all is said and done, I don't live, play, work, and worship with Texans. I live, play, work, and worship with Louisiana folks. And I want as many of them as possible to remain in business on the backside of this COVID-19 pandemic. When all is said and done, there's something comforting about knowing that the places you are going to patronize this week, they're locally owned and operated. There's that comfort zone there because you know you're going to be treated right. You know you're going to be able to rely on their word. And quite frankly, at the end of the day, we've got a duty. We've got an obligation. And if we want to be able to continue being the Louisiana that we all know and love, we cannot do that without local businesses continuing to flourish. 2:30 this afternoon, a lot of business owners are going to be parking it in front of the television or radio or internet, what have you, with fingers crossed, toes crossed, eyes crossed, saying prayers, the whole nine, hoping that Governor John Bel Edwards will see fit for us to start the reopening process. Now, that being said, throughout something like this situation, the COVID-19 pandemic, and I guess in hindsight, now that I think about it, for life in general, it's usually a pretty good practice to not let your highs get too high nor your lows too low. That way, you're better able to keep your things on an even keel and better able to deal with whatever comes down the pike. If we should get the unfortunate news from Governor Edwards today that we are not quite yet ready to start the reopening process, then hopefully we will do what we need to do to get there. If we have to redouble our efforts, so be it. If we have to lean more on neighbors and friends, so be it. But at the end of the day, it will come at some point, sooner or later. Just don't be too disappointed if it doesn't happen today. Personally, my gut tells me we'll get there. May not be, obviously, to the degree that we were hoping it would, but I think we are at that point now where we can start the process. Again, keeping in mind, with every step that we take forward, there will also be more responsibility placed on our shoulders. The governor can only do what the governor can do. He cannot enforce your social distancing. He cannot enforce stay-at-home orders. All he can do is issue them. You and I have to take them into account and govern ourselves accordingly. More so than anything, we will be looking to the governor today to announce his decision. But keep in mind, whatever that decision ends up being, it is more than anything else a referendum on how we have conducted ourselves throughout this pandemic. Hopefully, we've done the right thing, and at 2:30 this afternoon, we'll get some good news. Don't forget, the Exiles, Bill Profita, Kevin Gallagher, in the chair tomorrow. Just enough time left for yours truly to say, today, more than ever, and in the wake of COVID-19, I'll give it to you. America, we're not perfect, but doggone it, for my money, it's the best there is. And God knows there's no place else on his green earth that I'd rather be. Speaking of the good Lord, you realize he loves you, right? And I hope you know that I do too. Either way, there ain't a doggone thing you can do about either one. Take care of yourselves. Let's take care of each other, and we'll see you soon. God bless.